Alright everybody, welcome to the sixth screencast for Chapter 3. In this screencast we're going to talk about some of the things that shift supply, that shift the entire supply curve. Alright, again, this is a supply curve, and when price changes, you move along the supply curve. Alright, so at a price, say, of $3 here, the quantity is Q1. Often in econ, if you've probably already tell, we will just use Q and a subscript to indicate a quantity because it doesn't really matter how many cups of coffee here. Sometimes we'll use exact numbers, but here at a price of 3, you get a quantity of Q1, all right? And so if you change the price, all right, let me go back up. At a price of $3, you get a quantity of Q1. And if you change the price to say maybe $4, you get a different quantity. Again, I'll try to go straight across here. Quantity supplied, and it's higher. Q2 here is higher. So as you change the price, as you increase the price, you get more quantity supplied. As you decrease the price, you get less quantity supplied. All right, that obeys the law of supply. But that's a movement along the supply curve. All right. In this screencast, we're going to talk about things that shift the supply curve completely. All right. So what causes a decrease in supply? So say that a hurricane destroyed the Colombian coffee crop, and that would cause sellers to produce less coffee. All right. That is a decrease in supply. All right. So at all prices, suppliers, producers will supply less because they've had a huge part of their capacity destroyed. All right. What's an increase in supply look like? So an increase in supply is a complete shift to the right. So at the same prices, all right, producers are willing to supply more at all prices. All right. So let's say that there's a new way to brew a richer coffee that costs half as much. That would cause sellers to produce more cups of coffee. All right. At all prices, they would be willing and able to supply more cups of coffee. All right. So these are things that shift the entire supply curve. All right. So again, movement along a supply curve is caused by changes in the price of the good. All right. So there's a direct relationship between the price and quantity. Just remember that. Supply goes up, quantity supplied goes up. All right. Shift in supply is caused by non-price factors. So remember, a movement along a demand curve was caused by price. A shift in demand was caused by non-price factors. It's the same thing. It's just the parallel, just the mirror image of that. So changes in price move you up and down the supply curve, but changes in non-price factors shift the entire supply curve. All right. Okay, so what are the things that cause supply to shift? The first and one of the most important is the cost of inputs. All right, inputs are the resources that are used in the production process for whatever good that we're talking about. So in terms of the cups of coffee, you have coffee machines, you have labor that makes the cups of coffee, you most importantly have the coffee beans that you may get raw and then you have to roast, in which case you need roasters. All of those things are inputs into the production process. There's an inverse relationship between input cost and the supply curve. So as your input costs get more expensive, the supply curve will shift to the left. All right, at all prices, you are willing and able to supply less of cups of coffee, for example. What about changes in technology? Well, if technology improves, technology is just the knowledge that producers have about how to produce a product. So if technology improves, then supply shifts to the right. At all prices, you are willing and able to supply more because you've improved your production process by getting better technology. All right. Taxes and subsidies also cause supply to shift. If a tax is placed on a producer that adds to the cost of production, that will shift the supply curve to the left or shift the supply in. All right. There's an inverse relationship between taxes and supply. If taxes go up, supply shifts to the left, or the whole supply curve shifts down, some say. All right. A subsidy is the opposite of a tax. If you put a subsidy on the producers to encourage them to produce more, that shifts supply to the right. At all prices, they are now willing and able to supply more of the good. All right, so we would say there's a direct relationship between subsidies and supply. Another thing that shifts supply is, of course, the number of buyers. All right, recall the market supply curve is just when we add up all the individual supply curves. So if you have more people, it means you probably have more market supply for that good or service. Another thing that shifts supply is price expectations. The higher the price, if a higher price is expected tomorrow, if so, you will delay sales until the future. So if you're a firm and you think that coffee will be worth more tomorrow, you won't sell as much today, so you'll shift in. If you think the price is going to go down, then you will try to sell it all today. All right, so there's an inverse relationship between tomorrow's expected price and today's supply. All right, so here is a summary of the things that shift supply. And again, just like with demand, I'm going to put this up as a PDF on Canvas on the modules page so that you can see it and you can print it out, and it has a list of all the things that shift the supply curve to the left or constrain supply. Sometimes you'll say supply shifts down, although I like left. It's a little more picturesque than down. And then here are the things that shift supply to the right, increase supply at all prices. And again, we're not talking about changes in price. None of these things are changes in price. Price moves you up and down a supply curve. All these other non-price factors or cause shifts in supply. All right?